Is Diablo 4 still bad? Let's find out.
Let's talk about my final review. Now, currently, I am level 100, done Uber Durio, all the bosses, except Uber Lilith.
Now, that does sound impressive, doing all the bosses, but you also need to remember one thing. Currently, the problem is that the bosses are just dirt easy, okay? They have no mechanics, there's no challenge to them. The biggest challenge to them is honestly just farming them. But if you're playing even a semi-reasonable build, you're gonna just stomp over them. You don't need to dodge any mechanics in actuality. Okay, I'm kind of over-exaggerating that part a bit. But in a lot of cases, you can get hit by every mechanic and still just pot heal at one time and you're completely fine. And if you're playing a broken build like Ball Lightning Sorceress, it's those bosses might as well be just basic white mobs. And that is a problem.
Already done Nightmare Dungeon tiers. I'm working on finishing the last season here. I'm on like tier 92 or something of the Nightmare Dungeons. So I haven't done tier 100 of the Nightmare Dungeons, and I haven't done Uber Lilith, but I've done everything else in the game so far on hardcore, have farmed a lot of equipment. In fact, if we look at the stash here, you can see I've got just about anything I'm going to need. I just cleaned down my stash. Got way too many of these Dolmen stones. By the way, really cool. And we also farmed the new ring today, the new Malignant ring from Varshan as well, and tested that out. So, and I've maxed all my vampire powers out at this point, so I've done pretty good amount of the things there is to do. So first and foremost, I want to say, let's walk through the mechanics of Season 2 and how I feel about them now that I've used them.
So, he has the thing that deals damage based on max HP, which I think is overpowered, but this is actually the best. This is the best thing you can have in this game. You know why? Because I think the vampiric pulvers are extremely sad and cruelly made, but they are way better than I expected, honestly. You know why? Because they're generalized, everyone has the same, and they're so poorly made, so trashy made, in fact, that they are unique. They feel unique. And this is the best pulver for one simple reason. Its attack range is bigger than your screen. So when you're out in the overworld, this thing procs. And you know what happens? You get this really cool situation where suddenly monsters are just coming in from all sides of the screens because you pulled them with this thing. And that's the reason why this is the best vampiric pulver. And when this vampiric pulver leaves, you're not going to have mobs aggro from two screens away. And then the overworld is going to be sad and bad, okay? Then he has the overpower thing. You overpower every 20 seconds. I don't know why he has that, though. The vampiric dodge, vulnerability, and this is, I think, the 20% cooldown reduction on the ulti. I could be mistaken. Or this is the hit 5 times with basic attack minus 2 seconds off the ulti. One of the two. I don't use it, so I don't know.
Them a while. Let's talk about the new bosses, and then let's sort of talk a little bit about Season 3, because I have a point I want to make there. So first thing first, vampire powers. I feel slightly better about the vampire powers, playing the game a little bit more.
Same.
Before, I was thinking they're a little bit like passive, uninteractive, and a little bit boring.
Absolutely same. When vampiric powers dropped, I thought that this is going to be as generic shit as possible. Every single class is going to have the exact same vampiric powers, and that's, 2/5 true, I would like to say, but close enough to being different, okay? Close enough. But admittedly, while the vampiric power system in general is kind of a win, it does have huge downsides, though. And I don't think Blizzard made the vampiric powers good because they are a good company. I think they absolutely fumbled and just accidentally made the vampiric powers seem okay. Okay? Because some of these are just blatantly unusable.
Feel mildly still this way, though as you develop your builds more and more, it becomes easier and easier to figure out which of these you're going to swab in depending upon which build you're going to use. And I do find myself, for the most part, just using the same 5. But there are some powers in here that are pretty cool that you can actually kind of swap in depending upon what kind of build you're doing.
Yeah.
And I have enjoyed the vampire powers, though I will say this is not the focus of the season for me.
The worst thing about vampiric pulvers is packed, okay? This thing sucks. Because this ties into my previous rant about the world tiers that they just need to be deleted and removed. They ruin the game in way more ways. They add nothing but just problems to the game, okay? So let me explain how pacts work. Pacts also should not be in the game, by the way. The reality is, it would have been much better if you unlocked vampiric power slots and there were no pacts, just by doing, I don't know, some kind of activities, the vampiric quest, or whatever. That would be much better than the pact system, because the pact system works like this in tandem with the world system. So before level 50, you're not gonna apply any pacts, because why would you? You're not even level 50, the pacts are random. Some of them are active, some of them are inactive. Who honestly cares? Because you're switching to World Tier 3, and that's when you change all of your gear in 5 minutes. And the pacts cost quite a lot to make, if I'm not mistaken, of the vampire resource. I think that was the case. I'm not 100% sure, because I never checked, because I saw it once and I said, whoa, this is way too expensive. Okay? So, you're not doing this before World Tier 3, right? But then you get to World Tier 3, but after that, after a measly 20 levels, it's World Tier 4, baby. Actually, it's even faster than that. It's World Tier 4, baby. Which means, if you apply the pacts and make it so you can use all the vampiric powers that you want, you're an idiot again for doing that. Because you're gonna change all your gear again. So before World Tier 4, no one really applies the pacts because it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time. It's the shittiest thing ever. And this is a huge problem. Again, the pacts are in general bad by themselves, it's useless. Just make it that you get a new slot of vampiric power when you progress into the season story quest, and it's gonna be fine. But no, they didn't, obviously, because Blizzard logic. But yeah, world tiers need to be removed. Again, world tiers just ruin stuff.
For the most bit, this is something that I leveled and then set and more or less forgot about, and then I only really mix them around if I'm changing my build. So they're all right. I think the vampire powers are like a 6 out of 10. They're not a reason to come back to the game, but they are cool to enjoy.
I would rate them honestly like 8 out of 10. Because they're the best that they can be without being good. Okay? The vampiric powers are an absolute phenomenal best without actually being good. I wanted unique stuff. We got vampiric powers. It's as general as you can get, just a bunch of multipliers. But again, Blizzard fumbled the ball on them so ridiculously hard that they feel unique. They fumbled it up so hard it does feel kind of unique to have them. So, it's the highest rating possible while still being a shit tier mechanic.
Enjoy during that time. I also want to talk about real quick here this new Malignant Heart, bringing the new Malignant Heart from Season 1 in. I hope they do something similar with these vampire powers. We bring some of the ones people like Hemomancy is a good example of one that everyone likes, or Ravenous. I'm using Blood Boil, but it really depends upon what you like. Bring some of these back in a...
I don't want this. Because Blizzard already has shown us that they are going to fail with this. I hate the fact that they brought back Blight like they did. Because it's a ring slot. It's an item slot. It's just a -1 item. Because from now until the moment the Blight ring doesn't exist, Necromancers are never going to use anything but it. There is not a single build, not a single situation where Necromancers are not going to prioritize that ring. So, essentially, at least at the bare minimum, Necromancers are getting -1 in item slots for forever. And that's stupid. Do this 3 more times. What's next? Well, probably the Herodic Cube at this rate from Diablo 3, because, we now have minus item slots that can never be replaced because they're too powerful. It's stupid. Why couldn't they keep it the way that it previously was, or limit it to just 1 heart? I don't know, but whatever, I guess.
Another way, similar than they did to the Season 1 mechanic, would actually be pretty cool, and I could see them building upon that. Now, Uber Durio being added in the game. was a great addition. And after having done it, I will say two things about it. One is I enjoy the ability to know that I can get 925 item power gear, and that's pretty much what I've enjoyed about him the most. And the odd dopamine chance and uber unique. No, I have not got one yet. I've killed him about a dozen times. I need to kill him significantly more times if I actually want to get an uber unique. But number two is he's way easier than you're thinking. So you can actually beat him like a level 90 with poison resist. I beat him at 93 on.
Yeah, again, it's all of these things are just super easy.
Hardcore with a bad build that wasn't min-maxed remotely. Paragon glyphs weren't leveled, all of that stuff. Was still able to beat him, just slopped on a poison resistance potion and had at him. Not a big problem. In fact, he's easy enough that I saw a barbarian literally one-shot him and ball lightning tears right through him. And when I was using the Boulder build, I was able to kill him fairly quickly as well myself. So he's not really like something you super have to continually push towards. No, by the time you get to him and by the time you have materials, you'll probably be able to beat him with most of the builds, which feels all right. Because of this and the Blood Helltides mixing into Varshan, which you do these Blood Helltides, which gives you a whole bunch of whispers, and you level off this Blood Helltides, which I actually like this.
I think all activities honestly should reward some form of whispers, like one whisper or two whispers at the bare minimum. Because the Blood Tides, they only have 3 of these, which is, by the way, stupid. Okay? There's save the villagers / destroy vampiric constructs, gain souls from overseers something or 150 ghouls, and then there's like save villagers. No, it's kill the 2 blood dudes. Okay, it's horrible, repetitive, but it doesn't actually feel that bad for some reason. Okay, everything should tie into the Tree of Whispers, I think, honestly.
Is quite a bit, and you need to do this anywhere for the vampire powers. This is where you then go to the Tree of Whispers, because you were doing your whispers from doing the Blood Tides. You do Varshan, which also gives you the new ring, which then gives you the half of the materials you need for Duario. And then the annoying part happens, which is you need these shards of agony, and they call them that because of the agony you're in from having to farm the living steel in order to summon them. You only get this from the 300 tinders from wherever the cinders here, from wherever the Helltide spawns. You'll go do those. You'll get your cinders, from the Helltide.
Cinders suck. They don't save for some stupid reason. And the living steel, well, first of all, that's the only place you can get living steel. Admittedly, the devs said that they're gonna add more places to get living steel, so yay. But, man, the living steel chest is good, but sucks dick so hard at the same time. And the reason for that is the living steel chest just drops living steel in a bunch of potions. It doesn't drop items. Okay? But the living steel, when you open it, you get to find a bunch of stuff, and that's pretty cool. But you don't get anything from the living chest, so that sucks, So it's like, oh, it feels good, but it sucks at the same time. Also, they haven't made the Cinder save, which is stupid, dumb, and annoying on a character, Because, man, how many of you have been in this situation? Probably all of you, right? You're farming the 350 cinders, and you're going to the Loch Ness Monster to give them all in, because the Loch Ness Monster needs 350. And, well, on the way to the Loch Ness Monster, on the boat, you get 75 more cinders. And you're like, now, okay, I gave the Loch Ness Monster 350, but now I have half of a medium chest, so might as well farm that, right? Otherwise the cinders are going to be lost. And then you spend more time in the Helltide than you honestly want. And it's stupid. Like, just save the cinders. I don't want to do the chest and then be like, oh yeah, now I could lose these cinders, or I could spend 3 minutes farming and open up a medium chest. I don't like that. Just allow us to save cinders, okay? And give us more actual, elite monsters in the cinder zones. Otherwise, we're not getting any, okay? Make more events, make more good bosses like this. If there's a Helltide and it's every second hour, bro, that Helltide better be the most lit thing in the history of the universe. Otherwise, I'm kind of disappointed, Give us more things, more bosses, more super special events. Make Hell Tides an actual tide.
You'll put them into the box. That's 300 points. You get 3 of the living steels out of there, and it takes 5 of the living steels to summon this, meaning you have to do 2 boxes for 1 of him, and each time you kill him, he basically only drops 1 shard of agony, though I have heard he can drop 2 of these, and for this reason, you basically have to do 1,200 of these cinders, which takes more or less forever farming, and that is the pain point. So when I find myself...
1,200 cinders actually takes roughly 30 minutes if you're being efficient with it. But it's... farming them is so annoying. Dude, why do I still need to pick them up, by the way? I hate that so much. You kill a monster, you want to go there, but the shot doesn't even spawn instantaneously. It's so stupid. It's the same with this location right here. When you need, well, with these things right here, where you need to pick up the souls that are dropped. Oh my god, it's so dumb.
Doing is not really wanting to farm a whole bunch of Uberdurio because I don't really want to run around the Helltide when I'm already leveled and just kill things over and over again.
True.
Just to get the living steel. I have more Forgotten Souls than I would know what to do with at this point. And so that part can get a little repetitive in the in-game. Because of this, what this really makes me realize is that Uberdurio is a good stopgap measure to stop people from quitting at like level 70. So season 1, when the game came out, you would hit just about level 70, and then what would happen is you would be like, okay, I hit level 70, I've experienced the mechanic of the season has to offer, which is the Malignant Hearts, almost immediately. In season 1, you would get right into it, and you would immediately have the Malignant Hearts, which would...
I quit season 1 on a level 44 source or something like that. Season 2, I have made a level 50 rogue. I started with that, but then I said, nah, rogue's actually kind of fucking dumb. There's not a single good AoE skill. But shut up. No, they aren't. I mean, you need aspects, and then they're even not still that great. It's, I mean, rogue AoE is just atrocious in my opinion. And then I made a necromancer, and I have played for a very, very longer time than expected. Because I quit season 3 and... not season 3, but season 1. Again, I quit it in literally 4 days. Wow. Still playing season 2, though. Time to time.
You would get the mechanics out of the way, and you would feel like the season's over, like, really early, because, yes, there are some hearts you would get later in the game, but for the most part, you've tried these hearts out, you know what the mechanic is, and then that's basically the whole season. And so, for that reason, season 1 felt like you're pretty much over it, like level 50, 70, right around that area. People were starting to get bored more. Now with season 2, because of these 5 new bosses, this Hell Tides farming these to go, Varshan, etc. And then not only do we have the Halls of Pentian, but we also have the Glacial Fissure, which is the ice boss. We have the Darkened Path, or the Darkened Way, which is where you're going to do, Lord Zir, the vampire lord boss, etc. Because of these and the more unique item chases, now what happens is up to level 100.
By the way, the Lord Zir encounter in the lore is kind of funny in my opinion. Because it's like, okay, you go in, you start killing the vampires. And then he's like, aha, this is where you die. And you kill the vampires, right? Okay, then there's a second time the same thing happens. And then there's the third time that thing happens. And after the third time, it's like... It's like, okay, you haven't... He's like, okay, he says it in this way. Okay, you haven't defeated my forces, but... Okay, just come to my chamber, because this is just... Yeah, this is just kind of pathetic, okay? Just come to my chamber, okay, now? That's kind of funny.
And then I say up to because I want to talk about level 100 posts, is you actually don't really feel that pressure of being like super bored or it's just grinding and repetitive yet until post 100. So now what happens is you get in the game, you experience a new mechanic, then you have the blood tides, then you have a new boss.
By the way, that's good. You should feel bored post 100. You 100% should feel bored, and that's when you create a new character, technically.
To do, then you have a different boss to do, and then you mix it up with some nightmare dungeons, and you do some hell tides because you're starting to get to the point of doing the Uberdurio, and then you do Uberdurio, and you're like, that was great, I want to do another Uberdurio, and you farm like 5 Uberdurios, and right about the time you start farming Uberdurios and farming everything else, you're going to let hit level 100. So I think a lot more people are going to be getting into the level 80s, 90s, and yes, even level 100 in this season, because the amount of things to do up to in-game, and I say up to because we're going to talk about in-game in just a second, the amount of things that you're going to do getting up into in-game is actually significantly better going this season 2. I'd say it's like flipping a light switch, light and dark. It's very opposite to season 1. Season 1 would be boring very quickly. Season 2, now you have a reason to continue to level. So because of all these bosses, mechanics, etc. So I actually feel like what they basically did was we're able to move the point in which the audience retention would fall off a cliff all the way sort of until the 90s, high 80s, right around there. And then people maybe starting to, bleed out when the audience retention starts to fall off a little bit. But it is significantly better than it was in season 1. And now when you're level 100 is when you start feeling like you were in level 50 and 70 in season 1, because you start farming for Uber Durio. So now when you're 100, really the only thing there is to do is push Nightmare Dungeons. You can push the Nightmare Dungeons because you need to build a 90 anyway, or be the 90 anyway, in order to be able to continue to push your season objectives. And it's that or Uber Lilith, and people will probably choose to do the Nightmare Dungeons instead of Uber Lilith, especially if you're hardcore, for instance. So people are going to push those, and those will give you the drops for the Glacial Fissure, but you don't really need those, do you? What you really need is the Uber Durio, and so people are going to either farm the Nightmare Dungeons just for get your Paragon Glyphs up, etc. But then at some point, they're going to hit the level 100, not need to push Nightmare Dungeons anymore. You've already got your 90 and all that for the season journey, let's say. And then what's left now is the Helltide farming. So which really comes down to...
Is there a point in actually completing the seasonal journey fully? Because I usually don't care about the season journey after I have, done the first and second chapter. I don't even know which chapter I am on. I haven't checked, maybe I'm missing the rewards, but I already checked the rewards before the season started, and I saw nothing interesting for my class, so I was like, okay, well, fuck this. You can also find it anyway out in the world as a legendary affix, so what does it matter to begin with, honestly, right?
Living Steel. So Living Steel is the real new pain point, farm point in this game, that it becomes repetitive of you farming over and over and over again, because Varshan is easier to farm the materials you need. Like trying to get the materials, these femurs, these heads, these trembling hands are a lot easier, for instance, than farming for Living Steel, because you can actually get malignant hearts and some of these materials also from doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, just do the Vampiric Tides and you're going to accumulate, especially these two, just by default. It's crazy.
There will be these little monsters that will pop up out of the ground, and they can drop a Malignant Heart, they can drop a Trembling Hand, etc. And if you're going to be doing the Blood Tides, you actually get bonus kills. Every now and then you'll have one of these monsters pop up also from doing different events and what have you. And those will also have Malignant Hearts, Femurs, etc. in them. Whereas the Helltide doesn't have it, where when you kill one of the Helltide monsters, it might just drop you a Living Steel. You have to get the 300 cinders, and you have to farm it over and over again. Basically, what I'm saying is because of this, the bottleneck becomes the Hall of Pentient if you wish to redo Uber Durio over and over again, which is really what the current game has to offer in terms of repetitive content. So because of that, the repetition and the point that will bore people and grind people out is currently Living Steel. Now, they did address this, however, with one of the Q&A sections of the Campfire chat, in which they mentioned that Living Steel, they are looking to add more ways to add Living Steel into the game, because this has been a pain point and concern for people, that this is something that they are recognizing. So hopefully we do see more Living Steels come into the game. And we also know that because of this image right here...
By the way, how many of the strongholds have you cleared? I have cleared like 2, because you can get they spawn the Legion events there. That's all I have done. I have no interest in clearing strongholds. I'm completely ignoring them.
That they showed us during their chat on stage, that the Nightmare Dungeons are not going to be the end-all, be-all content in terms of difficulty as well. We actually have this, which triggers after you beat the Seasons Chapter Journey. And the Seasons Chapter Journey, like I was showing you prior, requires you to do a Nightmare Tier 90 or higher dungeon.
Oh, that's why he's doing it. Okay, now it makes sense. Maybe I should do it also. Who knows?
They also mentioned that the difficulty of...
Well, I can't do a tier 90 currently. Admittedly, I am so lazy My necromancer currently has, you know how many legendary affixes put on him? I don't know, 3. And I only care about 2 of them? You know why? Because I'm currently strong enough to kill the content. When when I feel that I'm weaker, then I will only put on the legendary affixes. It's kind of ridiculous, honestly. The fact that I feel no need to put them on because I'm just strong enough currently to have an easy time with the content. Bro, that's so stupidly crazy.
These dungeons are going to be ramped way higher, meaning that if you beat the 90, you might go into the tier 1 of these new sort of dungeon sigils, and you might instantly get killed, for instance. So if you're playing hardcore, you're going to be careful with that gap of difficulty as well. So effectively, I think it's something like this. I think season 1 that we
Disaster.
didn't really have much of a mid game. We had an early game, but we didn't really have much of a mid
Pure
game.
shit.
Now season 2 with Uber Durio and these 5 new bosses, that is not really a complete in game in my opinion, but it gives you more of a mid game. I say it's a mid game because there are things you do up until level 100. And then, yes, you can continue the farm for your Uber unique. You can try to get the dopamine real quick drop of it. But Uber Durio farming is not a satisfying enough in-game that will keep people in the game past level 100, just continually in a mass market appeal. So I think that's where, when they start adding in these new things, like they show this with the graph, with these new dungeons, for instance, I think this...
I don't know. Are dungeons better than bosses, honestly? Because again, Blizzard has not balanced a single game in the history of their existence. I mean, they didn't even balance StarCraft properly, okay? So, man, I don't know. Every single time I ever get a character to go to a World Tier 4, I enter the Cathedral of Light at level like 62. And every single time I am beyond pissed. You know why? Because there's those stupid big cannibals, and there's going to be a lot of them, that can aggro off the screen, especially if you're a necromancer, by the way. They can aggro off the screen, and then they have this stupid attack that actually has a very long wind-up, but Diablo is a super poorly made game, and this is why hard bosses are impossible in it. The animation of them actually doing the one-shot thing is actually super long. It's like 5 seconds or something ridiculous like that. But the animation is done so poorly. First they do like a type of thing, and then they just instantaneously do the thing. So the part that you think is the attack animation is like less than a second when they do this, and it AoE and it just one-shots you because fucking obviously. But in reality, the whole animation is just them starting to cheer or whatever, and then it goes into that. It is the dumbest shit ever. And I think this completely perfectly encapsulates how sad and bad Blizzard is as a company. It's like, and it pisses me off so much because if you're a necromancer, your minions, if you have any, are gonna aggro those guys from a screen away, and they can start that animation while you can't even see them, and then they target your minion, and guess what? The AoE is ginormous. It's like a frontal cone like this. It's huge. And guess what? They're attacking your minion and you just die. You don't even know what killed you, honestly, sometimes. It is so stupid. And they just one-shot you. And same with the boss. What's his name? Echo of Ratma? Or whatever. That boss has not a single hard mechanic at all. Except the stupid dumb mechanic when the red circles appear on the ground. And I'm currently playing Blood Surge Necromancer. Do you want to guess how fun it was to see those red circles appear on the ground? You have less than a second to react to them. And guess what? If you're using Blood Surge, your screen is full of shit. You can't see anything. So when he does that, you have no audio cue. I think there's no audio cue. And there's no visual cue because they're so small, they're so dark. It's just, is it a hard mechanic? No. But you need to dodge that shit in 1 second, which is kind of hard actually considering human response rates. And if you're a necromancer that's playing Blood Surge, you're cluttering the screen up always with your thing, and you can't see it. You can't even sometimes see it, and it just one taps you. It is so sadly stupid. It is just insane, honestly. It is the most stupidest thing. Like, Blizzard, I do not believe they will ever make a good boss in their lives, okay? Uber Lilith, like, come on, how many times have you heard about the fact that people are just complaining about it? That the fight is not hard, it's just that all of her skills are perfectly in the exact same color palette of the arena that you're fighting in, so they're pretty much invisible. It is so poorly made.
This is where we start getting into more of the end game, and they also show this the gauntlet mode with the leaderboard going into season 3. So season 1 was more of an early game. Season 2 they added mid game. Season 3 hopefully they're adding in game, and it might end up being sort of what I was saying way back when the game launched. So right around season 3 is when we actually start getting more of the full, complete, polished picture. At least that's what's starting to round up to be. So for me, my review of season 2 is this. Season 2 was a massively well done implementation of a mid game, meaning this is not a complete full game yet, but season 2 had massive improvements over season 1 in terms of content added, has massive improvements of the mid game section of Diablo, because I think we are actually missing a good chunk of mid-game as well as in-game. And by season 3, hopefully, we're going to be seeing this in-game content. Now, the other part of it is season 2 is not over. This is actually being added in December, which is part of season 2 and is the first addition to a real actual in-game cycle, one of many, hopefully, that will be added to the game. So season 2 is actually going to be adding some in-game as well. But if you're asking me, I think what season 2 executed really well upon was keeping people entertained up until level 100, whereas we were losing people continually by level 100 in the previous season as well as the launch of the game. For me, season 2 additions were actually quite good. I think they made the game significantly better. If you're asking overall rating of the game right now, I think it improved it by a full point. If you thought the game was a 6 before, maybe now it's a 7.
Now it's a 6.
If you thought it was a 7, maybe now it's an 8. Okay.
Oh, actually, now it's a 5.
Okay. If you think the game, however, was a 2 when you played it in season 1, I think it's still only going to be a 3, maybe a 3.5 for you. The reason is it's not complete.
No, I think this added a lot, because keep in mind, the reality is the mid game is the late end game for a lot of people. Okay, that is the reality. There are far more people that consider the mid game the end game of their journeys than there are people who consider the end game of their journeys. So this is actually kind of huge, because this is the most majority appealing thing. Okay, but again, is season 2 good? Yeah, it's way better than expected, but Diablo 4 is still not the game that we deserve, that we want.
Completed yet. Like I say, I think we still...
So don't tell the devs that they did a good job. If a dev asks you something, you tell them to go ahead and delete their Minecraft character because they failed Diablo so hard. They should not even have... They should spend their whole lives now making up for what the abysmal creation they created. Okay? You never tell a dev, oh, you did a good job. No, that's how they do a bad job right after.
Don't need another season worth of content to really wrap the game around. But I do think that season 2 added what is, in my opinion, a full point worth of value in terms of a 1 to 10 ranking of the game. I actually think it was a quite well done season. And if every season we get as much additional content as we receive this season, because I see people saying the season 2 didn't have a lot of content, but I disagree. We got the vampire power.
No, we did get a huge amount of content, honestly. This is way more than you would expect. But I don't want... This was still... It was good, but it wasn't good, It was good compared to the shit that we had previously, right? And that's a dangerous thing. Because at this point, Blizzard is going to give us a lot of different stuff. But if all of that different stuff is underwhelming and boring and lackluster, we're gonna end by season 5 where it's gonna be like 15 different mechanics that you don't care about because they're all kind of lackluster and bad, and that's gonna destroy the game. Okay? So I would always take good mechanics but less of them than mediocre mechanics but a lot of them. Okay?
We got the blood tide. We got 5 new bosses. We're getting this whole new edition as well here with this graph they're showing us that's coming as well this season. We have the mid-season event. I actually think we got a pretty good amount of stuff in season 2. So if season 3 delivers on that same quantity of new content that comes into the game and much more hyper focus on the in-game, by season 3 we could actually have a pretty decent in-game.
Well, anyway, that was our boy. Why do you not have thing DM here? Anyway, that was our boy DM Dark Microtransactions. DM Diablo 4, soon to be our boy. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. This was Quizzer Said 7. Bye bye.